A conspiracy with no legitimate proof that the FBI organized the January 6th Capitol attack. And the claim is already being picked up by some GOP lawmakers. Here's CNN's chief media correspondent, Brian Stelter.
When you assume, you make an ass of you and me.
Tucker Carlson must have forgotten this lesson from The Odd Couple, because his latest January 6th conspiracy theory makes huge assumptions in a baseless bid to let rioters off the hook.
But strangely, some of the key people who participated on January 6th have not been charged.
It's not strange at all. Prosecutors are still building their cases. But Carlson is claiming, without any proof, that the people given anonymity in court papers, the people called unindicted co-conspirators, were actually government agitators, there to stoke a riot.
The government knows who they are, but the government has not charged them. Why is that? You know why. They were almost certainly working for the FBI. So FBI operatives were organizing the attack on the Capitol on January 6th.
Carlson is known for his logical leaps, but this is one of his most egregious ever.
This is crazy, and we should resist it.
And now Carlson has whipped up his allies into a frenzy. Woo! Here's Marjorie Taylor Greene assuming Carlson is right and saying we need names and answers about the FBI operatives who were involved. But this is just yet another baseless theory that Carlson has hyped to millions of people. The existence of unnamed, as yet uncharged co-conspirators does not mean that they were working undercover for the FBI. Just look at the size of the mob. This is a massive case.
The phrase unindicted co-conspirator absolutely cannot refer to an FBI agent acting as an undercover or to anybody acting on behalf of the FBI, because under federal law, if a person is acting for the government, they're not actually part of a crime because they're essentially pretending.
But in Tucker world, conspiracy beats reality. Just look at his banner on screen asking what really happened on January 6th, as if it's some sort of mystery. And his guest,
a prior relationship with the federal government.
Darren Beattie, a former speechwriter for President Trump, attended a conference frequented by white nationalists. And when CNN exposed this, he left the White House. But Tucker never mentioned any of that. Instead, he promoted Beattie's website, which posted a just asking questions sort of story, suggesting that the feds infiltrated militia groups who ransacked the Capitol. For Carlson, it's part of a story that he's been telling ever since the night of January 6th.
It is not your fault. It is their fault.
And Brian Stelter joins me now, along with Chris Wecker, the former FBI Assistant Director for the Criminal Investigative Division. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Brian, I appreciate the report just before the break. As you mentioned, this whole storyline comes from a site run by the former Trump White House speechwriter who left the White House after he attended a conference attended by white nationalists. Does Tucker really take this guy seriously?
Well, in a word, yes. This is how the right-wing media world works. Starts on a fringe website, gets onto Tucker's show, then it spreads all throughout the GOP, and that's what's happened in the last 24 hours. In the MAGA echo chamber, the idea is that brave patriots were entrapped by the feds, were tricked or were pushed into starting a riot. No evidence at all, lots of evidence to the contrary, but Tucker somehow seems to need to provide excuses for these rioters, to let them off the hook, to say they were innocent, brave patriots.
Chris, so give us the facts here. The whole premise of this is based on two unindicted co-conspirators. Can you please explain what that might mean? As Ellie Honig said in Brian's piece, it can't refer to the FBI.
No, by definition, in a conspiracy, you can't have a government agent as an unindicted co-conspirator. Don, most unindicted co-conspirators are people who cooperated after the fact. And that's how you, by the way, that's how you make conspiracy cases. They are, by definition, also one or more people agreeing to commit a crime and taking steps to commit that crime. So unindicted co-conspirators, I think what Tucker is reflecting is a fundamental misunderstanding of the criminal justice system. It's not the kind of thing you say if you want to be taken seriously.
Chris, we heard from Officer Michael Fanone earlier in the show. He was brutally attacked, like many officers who defended the Capitol. The right wing likes to champion law and order. But isn't indulging these sorts of conspiracies a slap in the face to law enforcement?
It is. I mean, 130 officers were assaulted that day, over 130. Many have been charged for those assaults. And I think if you asked any police officer in the country, they would come out strongly saying the same thing that I am. I mean, everything that happened that day was wrong.
Brian, let's talk. A new edition of your book, Hoax, is now out. It is new chapters detailing the rise of the big lie leading to the Capitol attack.
Yeah.
Even after the attack, some Republicans tried to lie and say that it was actually Antifa, Black Lives Matter, who attacked the Capitol on January 6th. What did you learn about where these lies come from?
Well, and that attempt started on the very night of the riot. That's why I went in Hoax and I went back to all the tapes and showed what the commentators were saying right after the attack. The Antifa craziness, all those conspiracy theories to divert blame, it started right away and it's continued to this day. And now here we are talking about Tucker promoting an inside job, false flag theory. It's all more the same. And I think in some ways, Don, it is so insidious because they're presenting 7 or 8 different theories, none of which make sense, but all of which provide excuses. I think in some ways it's because the insurrection was so shameful. It was so criminal. It was such an attack on our democracy that there has to be an excuse. Tucker has to present these alternative realities in order to let his viewers, I guess, sleep better at night, to be honest, Don.
And we've heard from law enforcement and from intelligence officials, Chris, that they're concerned that this could lead to more violence.
It could. I mean, Don, I'd like to think that the FBI and other law enforcement agencies have actually penetrated these organizations and actually have informants in these organizations. I think they're behind in that area. It took us about 5 to 8 years back in the 80s and early 90s to infiltrate these groups. It takes some time, but I don't think even today they have enough coverage other than just reading their social media.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it.